What's going on, everybody? There has been some exciting news going on when it comes to NFTs and crypto. Everything's pumping up once again. So in this video, we're going to be covering what's going on in the NFT markets, the crypto market, as well as some major updates on some of our favorite projects. Now, before we go ahead and get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because I am traveling in Los Angeles. I'm still pumping out these videos for you guys. So let's go ahead and dive in. First thing we got to talk about is what's going on in the crypto markets, right? So for the most part, everything is actually kind of pumping, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even some of the alternative coins as well. Things are pumping, right? So Ethereum, it's been going up. You know, it was at that 1.3 pretty much, and now it's at 1.5. So why is this happening? Well, really, when it comes to the crypto markets, you really have to look at what's going on with the S&P 500 because a lot of times when S&P 500, right, which is the stocks in America, when they go down, crypto also goes down as well. And then we also find that when S&P 500 goes up, over the past 5 days, it kind of went up quite a bit, which 4%, which is kind of a lot in a sense, right? You know, crypto market also follows that as well. So something to keep in mind, because if you just look at crypto only, you're not really going to get the full picture, right? So that's why you got to look at what's going on in the macro economy. When there's fear and there's everything like that, you just want to be mindful of those things. Now, even when we look at the crypto fear and greed index, I mean, obviously it's not a totally accurate representation of what the world is thinking, but hey, you know, it's close enough. So yesterday, you know, we were at a 20, now we're at a 33. So people are feeling a little more bullish. Even on Twitter, it's not as negative as it was like, let's say like a week ago. So it's interesting how narrative changes so quickly, even though like nothing else changed. Everybody's still doing what they were doing. The only difference is that things pumped up a little bit. Now everyone's suddenly bullish, right? So definitely logical, definitely emotional driven market. So just keep that in mind as you continue to buy, sell, invest. Now moving into some projects. The first thing that I did want to talk about is actually Elon Musk. So if you look on Elon Musk's Twitter profile page, in his bio it says Chief Twit. Obviously there's been a lot of news and speculation that Elon Musk was going to buy Twitter, remove the bots, make it freedom of speech and all these things, and it seems like it may possibly be happening, right? And why this is important for the crypto markets is because when you have a different leader and there's a different change in power of influence, then that's going to directly affect the NFT markets. Now, how will it affect the NFT markets? It's not exactly clear, but one thing that's probably clear is that they're probably going to remove a lot of the bots. So, you know, all these Twitter giveaway bots and things like that. Hopefully, you know, we come to a point where those things can kind of go away. I think it's better if people like see what the truth is versus, you know, just seeing like a bunch of bots on Twitter and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm following along to see how this is going to affect the platform overall. And it's possible that because Elon Musk is interested in cryptocurrency, interested in Bitcoin and probably Web3 as a whole, it's possible that Twitter might kind of move in that direction over time. And it seems like all the large companies are moving into crypto, right? So if we look at, you know, who's really been making moves in the crypto markets, we see Reddit, Starbucks, Marvel Universe, DC Universe, PayPal's in crypto, like everyone's pretty much going in crypto, right? So even though it's kind of bearish overall, we're in a bear market, pretty obvious that everybody wants to use crypto. It's going to be pretty widely adopted moving forward. So if you are a builder, it's a perfect time for you. And if you're a trader, you just want to be mindful of these things and watch out for the opportunities. So recently, if you didn't know, Apple is going to allow people to do NFTs on their platform. However, the catch is that they are going to impose a 30% commission tax on all NFT sales. Well, really all in-app purchases, and in-app purchases also include NFT sales. So what does this mean for a lot of people? Well, for some people, this is not really a big deal, right? So Gabriel over here, who is the CEO of Digi and Limit Break, which is pretty much like a modern day crypto powered game with $20 million in funding, right? And they have ways to monetize besides just selling more NFT drops, right? He's still pretty bullish on the App Store, right? So he's not really complaining about like, oh, like, you know, they're going to take 30% because he probably has figured out a way to, you know, run ads and monetize and make more money than they spend, right? So it doesn't really matter if they lose that 30% because they're so used to it for their other games. I would say it's more of a trade-off, right? Because if you're able to advertise on the App Store and even the Google Play Store, and they haven't, you know, put out their policies yet, you're really just buying access to their audience. And if you can get access to their audience and you can make the numbers work, and let's say you put $1 in advertising, you get $2 out, you're just going to keep running it, right? So it doesn't matter if it's 30% tax, as long as you are making more money than you put in, then you're good to go, right? And the teams that cannot figure that out, well, they're just not going to survive. And that actually kind of moves the space towards like the larger companies with better economies of scale are just going to like run these apps, and they're just going to crush everybody else, which typically happens in the App Store as well, right? If you think about it, of course, indie apps can succeed, but beginning they succeed really well, then they fall off, and then all the big companies like eat everything up. So that's probably going to happen once again, even though it's Web3 and decentralized. Well, you know, power is also can be centralized pretty quickly. What's also interesting is one of my friends who's a founder of Soundmint, he actually put out this thread. He said recent broken Apple rules have screwed over Soundment, which is his company, startup company that he has, because they're building like backend infrastructure basically to help artists sell like physical digital collectibles, right? I guess for his business model and what they want to do, and they want to give a lot back to the artist. Apple taking 30% just doesn't work for them, so they have to like rethink their entire strategy. So it's interesting to see that just one announcement can kind of pivot an entire startup, right? So definitely interesting things indeed, because things can change so quickly. Switching things up a little bit, I want to give you an upcoming project that you want to look out for. So we got this project called Art Gobblers, and if you look on the Twitter, it's going to be an experimental digitalization art factory by Justin Roiland and Paradigm. So Paradigm, if you didn't know, is one of the largest crypto / Web3 investment firms. They got a lot of assets under management, so they're definitely one of the biggest, right? And so if this project is backed by Paradigm, it probably can mean something, and they probably have a lot of connections to get a lot of attention to this thing and maybe increase the prices, right? So it's minting on October 31st, and if you go on their website, it's kind of like this art experimentation. I like how they kind of did this, where they didn't promise like this ridiculous roadmap. They didn't say that we're going to give you, you know, this and that for the next 10 years. It's just more like, hey, this is a fun thing. This is an experiment. We're being honest about it, and I can respect that, right? So when you click on start drawing, you can like draw different things and preview and share, and I suppose you can submit this for public shaming or whatever it is, right? So if you kind of like scroll on their page, and people have written like different threads and stuff, where it's going to be a 10K collection, 2,000 animated gobblers, 8,000 using goo. So there's going to be a token element off the bat, which is interesting. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that someone should like implement a token right away before it mints, but hey, you know, everyone has their own perspective on that, and I suppose if it's an experiment, even if it fails, doesn't really matter, right? Now, next piece of news that we have is going to be the Azuki Japan party. Now, this caught my attention because so far from my experience, Azuki has thrown some of the most interesting events for their community members out of all the NFT space. I'm sure, you know, Bored Apes also have their Ape Fest and stuff as well, right? Which I haven't been to. I have been to the Azuki events, and it actually is pretty cool. Recently, what they did was they had one in Japan, and then you can kind of see like, this is pretty crazy. This looks pretty fun. And I'm not sure if this event was community ran or if it was supported by Azuki themselves, right? Because this is like Azuki Tokyo. So I'm not really sure how that works. Regardless, it's interesting that people all the way from Japan are interested in Azuki. They like the anime art, they like the culture, they want to be part of the club. Definitely a very strong community to kind of check out if you're interested in that. And the events look good, right? So probably over time, more and more, especially doing a bull run, there'll probably be like these kind of events all over the world. And I'm sure that people will actually fly out all the way to Japan just to go to these events, right? Like, I want to go to Japan. I want to visit, like just to visit and check it out. So if there's a Azuki event, I wanted to meet some people and I get to travel to Japan, like I'm down to do it, right? So I think there's going to be more of that moving forward in the future, especially during the bull market. Azuki China also threw their own event as well. Then obviously Azuki in America has their event. So like, it's basically like a social club essentially, right? And I feel like that itself is pretty powerful. One other thing that I wanted to mention was that Alex Lin actually put up a tweet a couple days ago, which I found pretty interesting. He said, basically Meta, which is Facebook, recently announced that for the first time in 18-year history, they are downsizing. So they have to let people go. Now, this is quite interesting because if you're a startup and you're trying to hire people, well, now talent is available. So if you didn't already know how like tech works, like big tech works, or basically what they do is like they pay really high salaries to like talent, like engineers and stuff. So they'll pay them like 200K, 300K. These engineers actually don't have to do that much work. I heard it from my friends and stuff like that. They'll just be like doing 20-hour weeks, just taking it easy, very relaxed job. And it's like, it's really a big company just buying up talent so there's no competitors, right? So that's generally the sentiment. But now that there's downsizing, people need jobs, they want to be part of something interesting, they want to be part of Web3. And so now it's interesting because you can hire higher quality talent, and then like these large companies are losing their grip on it. Probably the next 5 to 10 years, like we're going to see this whole new wave of like more interesting, exciting, passion-driven, purpose-driven startups that just weren't as prominent before, right? And so I'm pretty excited about that and where this leads. So it's just a shift in like talent, power, attention, and all these things. And I feel like if you're a builder during this time, you really have an opportunity to make something special. Right now it is the gold rush, and people might say it's a bear market, but this is probably one of the best times to build from my perspective. So if you're a founder or you want to work in Web3 and you want to work for a company, which is also cool too, right? I highly recommend you get more involved, learn about the space, because this is the time. The next thing I want to talk about is actually AI generated art. So recently, over the past week or two on Twitter, there has been this trend where a lot of CloneXs have been using this AI art generator to turn their CloneX into anime art, right? It's basically like they'll take the CloneX that looks like this, and then they'll run it through the generator a few times. And actually, these are pretty good. So it's like, this is not hand drawn. This is an artificial intelligence like made this from the original CloneX that someone put in, right? And so on my timeline, I've just been seeing like all these people posting like, hey, this is my CloneX. And then like, these are the images that the AI spit out. Like, come on, man. Like, this is pretty good. Like, if you told me like somebody drew these, I wouldn't be shocked. You know what I mean? But this one was pretty good with Benito. You know, he used his CloneX over here with the Murakami drip, and then it turned out like this. And this is pretty solid, right? And so it's interesting because I've seen like a lot of fan art be prominent in communities like like Azuki, and people will basically take an Azuki and they'll turn it into like this anime style, like One Piece. It gets a lot of attention on Twitter and keeps the community alive during dark times. And then like with AI art generation, it's like people can create stuff without actually having to be like super talented when it comes to creating, because they can just put inputs into AI, right? This is really just the beginning, because user generated content is like one of the most powerful things in Web3. So when your community is able to create and they have tools to make it extremely easy to create, your brand in general just proliferates like beyond anything that was possible before, right? It's very similar to like TikTok, for example, right? So if you study TikTok, what they've done is like they made it as easy as possible for anybody to become a creator on TikTok. So all you have to do, you just look at the trends, use the same music, you just copy a dance, and then you look cute or whatever, and then boom, there you go, 1 million views, right? And so the easier it is for a project to make their community create user generated content, the more attention they will get to that thing, and then people post it on Twitter, and then more people want to buy it, right? This may seem like kind of a niche thing. You might be like, oh, it's just AI, it's just anime art, but then this is really just scratching the surface, right? Because what can you do with artificial intelligence, right? Can you write with it? Can you create different types of content? Suddenly, like if you have all these creative ideas, but you don't have the years of experience to do something, can you do it now? Because all you have to do is change the different inputs, right? My guess is like there's going to be a future where it's not necessarily about like the skill in the hand of like how many years you have. I'm sure there's always a place for that, but I also think there's going to be a whole new wave where it's more about your ideas, and you take those ideas and you learn how to use AI and put in inputs to create something new. So I'm pretty excited for that, because it just makes it easier for the average person to become a creator. Next project we're going to talk about is Memeland. So there's going to be Memeland MVP Staking, and MVP is essentially their more expensive collection. Is very limited, but you can stake it now for rewards. So what Memeland is able to do is like basically say, hey, stake your potatoes, stake basically all the NFTs that they have. We're going to reward you in some way. And so what they do is like they'll give away things like free NFTs, free iPhones, free gym membership, right? So it's almost like a giveaway by just staking. That's not bad, right? Because the price of these things are actually pretty cheap, but then people are excited about it and they have a chance to win, almost like a lottery. That's value to people, right? It's an interesting way to keep people to stake and keep the floor price stable and high. It's actually inexpensive to do, honestly, but it works, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It works. And what's also interesting is that PXN also does it. We haven't talked about PXN for a while, huh? PXN also does it where they have this white box where you get free stuff. So this week they're giving away Apple computer and these digital consumables and these other things, right? And I've seen things like they give away free fryers and stuff like that. So from a business perspective, right, if you're an NFT project, you can just like reach out to these companies and be like, hey, we're going to do these giveaways. It's free marketing. Do you want to be involved? And then a company might be like, sure, I'll send you like 20 of my items, right? And then it also keeps the holders happy, because at least as the project continues to build something long-term, at least there's something short-term to get people to hold and be excited about something. And then also the more interesting part is actually these digital consumables for me, right? Because for the digital consumables, whatever the project decides the utility is for that thing, it doesn't actually cost anything to create, right? So somebody can say like, hey, I'm going to draw a digital consumable, and then one day you're going to be able to drink it and then change the color of your background, for example, right? And so these are interesting things for me, because in video games, the money is made from cosmetics, right? So like League of Legends or Valorant, for example, you play the same game, but you have different skins you want to flex, and people are willing to spend a lot of money on this, right? And it doesn't cost anything to distribute, right? Because when you make one skin, you can sell it 1 million times, and it doesn't cost you more money to do that. So for digital consumables in the NFT space, I think it potentially can be a revenue model. You just have to create the demand and like the social status of like using it so that someone will actually want to pay money for that. But it's really the same thing as what's been working in gaming, just applied into NFTs and Web3. So nothing new, just a different tweak to a working model. And so with that said, that's everything that we have to cover in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one.